Hi guys, I'm AJ the AJ. I'm here to talk about the cancelled Henry Stickmin fan game Raiding the Lab by the defunct animation group Banana Studio. Before I get started, I want to note that there are no plans to revive this game. It's dead and will likely stay that way. This video is made because I saw a lot of potential in the game and think it should be preserved. Quick disclaimer, this video is not meant to belittle Kevin or anyone else mentioned in this video. I think they're all phenomenal people, and their contributions to this video were very well appreciated. Development for the game started in October of 2022. It was publicly announced on the 15th to the Banana Studio Discord server as a 1-year anniversary of the server's creation. This was also the first time the rest of the Banana Studio crew had heard of the game. There are a total of 7 people working on the fan game. Kevin was the leader of the project. He would write the game's story and do a lot of promotion for it. Kevin would also be the one to hire 5 other people involved with the development. Reggie was hired to be a voice actor for the game. His voice was heard in the game's intro, which can be seen in the trailer.
Good evening. We have discovered that the Toppat clan is a research lab built on the Outlaws Island.
Tony57, known today as Stuffy Ant, was involved with the project. She likely did some of the game's music. Vixter likely helped with the music. He also did some of the sprite work and worked on the storyboards for the trailer's intro. Klaxon also worked on the storyboards and was set to be one of the main animators for the game, also contributing to some of the background work. AJ the AJ, which is me, worked on the animation for the game as well. I finished the first scene involving Henry wearing a jetpack. I would later repurpose this scene by submitting it to my application for the Henry Stickmin Reanimated collab, which sadly wasn't accepted. Along with that, Cooper, the creator of Mastering the Gun and Fugitive, was somehow also involved with the project, but how he was involved and to what degree still remains a mystery. The 7 people working on this game would mainly communicate through a Discord group chat created in December 2022 that was assumed to be deleted until the production of this archival video, where Kevin let me know he still had access to it. As stated previously, work for the game began on October 15th, where all the crew were gathered and shown Kevin scripts for the game's choices and outcomes. Klaxon officially made Raiding the Lab a hard extra and updated the description of the hard video to reflect that. Something funny about this addition is that Raiding the Lab would be the only game in the hard video's description not to contain an appearance from Clayton Ooper. But who knows, maybe he would have been worked in somehow. This inclusion also implies that the game would have been played through YouTube. While that was likely the case, Kevin never specified which platform he chose to put the game on. Sadly, as time went on, Kevin pushed back on work for the game. By November, development slowed down to just me and Vic talking about the game until December, when Kevin told me that he would no longer continue work on the game. The game's lack of further development was blamed on Kevin, and it was put into development hell and never touched again despite several attempts at a revival by Vic and me. Vic will repurpose some aspects from Raiding the Lab into his upcoming game, Robbing the Casino. Kevin didn't commit to the game for several reasons. From tiresome drama that we kept private, to medical situations and life getting in the way of art, Kevin had no energy left to work on Raiding the Lab. Without our leader, the head of the project, Banana Studio, and his associates would cease operations on the game. This view was not reflected by the crew. Many saw that Kevin was unwilling to follow through on his promises multiple times. This can be seen by the several trailers he would upload to YouTube, promising games like Burgling the Scooter and remasters to Surviving the Snowstorm, Cracking the Safe, and Storming the Submarine that never went anywhere. This also contributes to how unfocused Kevin was, choosing to make many games and finish very little. Kevin does have humility though. It's the reason he wanted me to upload the Attacking the Tower Devolved trailer and not do it himself. This video isn't meant to slander him because he's a really creative guy who happens to have a lot on his plate like many of us. Right now, Kevin's working on a game called Retrieving the Jewel, and it looks like it has a lot of promise compared to his other work. The game was set to have 17 fails and 2 endings achieved through a total of 27 options. Of those options, 17 were failures and 10 were correct. The introduction of the game involved Henry in his home learning about the existence of an expensive meteor that was owned by the Toppat clan. In the game's script, Henry was meant to learn about this in a newspaper and spill his coffee. However, in the trailer, Henry doesn't spill his coffee and hears about the meteor from his radio.
Good evening. We have discovered that the Toppat clan is a research lab built on the Outlaws Island. The government is currently investigating the island. Some have been saying that the Toppats hold a rare yet expensive piece of meteor. Rumors have been going around that the meteor piece is over $500 million. Back to our other news. Local British man threatened.
The scene was storyboarded by Klaxon and planned to be storyboarded by Vic as well, but neither version looks quite like what Kevin's final version looks like with Henry at his table. Henry then uses a jetpack to fly to the island where the meteor is being kept. The script says he flies down to the center of the island, goes through some damage when hitting multiple palm trees, he hits the ground as the jetpack is gone. Okay, I animated this scene and had two deviating storyboards for this. One where Henry looks around before getting up, and one where Henry gets up and then looks around. None ever featured Henry flying through palm trees or taking damage, and his pack was never supposed to disappear. I also posted this to the Pencil 2D Discord server where I got some helpful feedback. After that, there is no more animation for this game. There are some backgrounds drawn up, but other than that, that's pretty much it. He covers out the huge leads from his sight, seeing two Top Hat members guarding the back of the lab. This leads to the first successful option screen in the game, consisting of two fail options and two successful options. I won't be going through all the fails, but I will leave screenshots of the scripts for you to read as we go along if you're still interested. The first of two routes begins with the magnet choice. Henry points a magnet at two Top Hats. They get pulled towards the magnet and get stuck. Henry uses one of their key cards to open the back door where he stumbles under the conversation of three Top Hats. Henry knocks them unconscious with a bouncy ball and then takes one of their hats as a disguise for himself. He walks through a room filled with Top Hat scientists and their experiments. He finds a map and locates the vault where the meteor is being kept. One Top Hat doesn't recognize Henry and points a pistol at him. Henry ducks and then uses his shield to ricochet the bullet right back at the Top Hat. Henry runs towards the vault where an alarm goes off. He uses the teleporter and gets inside the vault where he sees the meteor and grabs it. Top Hats start to break down the door. Henry Falcon punches the wall and it crumbles to dust. He runs through the hole and away from the lab to find his jetpack. Once he does, Henry flies off with the meteor. That is the end of this route, where the player can fail 11 times and gets the rank of Scienceful Robbery. Up next is the last of the two routes. It starts when the trampoline is selected. Henry uses a mini trampoline to bounce to the top of the lab where he sees a tired Top Hat guarding the lab. Henry uses a magic wand to make the member fly off into space. Henry then takes out a device that will show him where the roof's weak spot is. Once he finds it, he stands over it and drops a bowling ball over it. The bowling ball creates a hole that Henry jumps into. He lands inside the vault and snatches the meteor. Henry climbs out with the meteor and runs to the edge of the lab's roof. He uses a rope to climb down and find his jetpack. Henry takes the jetpack to the edge of the island and he flies away. That's how this route ends, where you can get 4 fails and the rank of Unseen Discovery.
Hello there, I'm Vixter. I was a storyboard artist on Reading the Lab. I was assigned as a storyboard artist. I remember wanting to ask him if I could become an animator on the project, since I was starting to learn how to animate back then. But I decided not to really do that because I was really new to Flash. Looking back, I could have done a way better job handling my bulk of work and not getting constantly distracted by whatever was happening in the Banana GC or the RTC one. If Raiding the Lab would have come out the way it was planned to, I think it would have had moderate success. I don't really think it would have been necessarily groundbreaking, which I know that wasn't the point we were trying to prove, but nonetheless I think it impacted the future of some projects. Sometimes I look at some projects and take into consideration that one project's demise is another project's opportunity to do better, to learn from the mistakes and mishaps that were laid before them. I've witnessed a lot of projects come and go, and in retrospect, it's sometimes for the better because developers start to lose steam after a while, or the passion fades away. People grow, they evolve into different versions of themselves. It's all about learning from the past. Kevin didn't necessarily handle it the best, mostly because it was one of his first collaborative projects. I don't hold anything against him because of that. Pressure always sets in when it's the least expected, and I've encountered a similar struggle he had back then. I would always rely on others to do the work, and it was a mess because I wasn't completely sure what the whole story was gonna be at the time. Kevin did his best at the time. What really killed the project was distrust. We were all kids. For reference, I was about 13 years old back then when we were working on it. Not a lot of work was done, so the damage wasn't massive. It was more or so a headache having to deal with the fact that we promised something so early on, and we let down some people. I think I'm not the first, nor am the last to say this. We, as developers of Henry Fangames, do not like making empty promises. We work on those projects out of the passion for the source material and the culture surrounding it. My final thoughts would be that Kevin could have easily done worse, even though he didn't really do much bad. It's just that he didn't really take it head on necessarily, or maybe we were gonna have arguments over the smallest details. For example, thought it was way bigger than it was. I thought it was like ITA sized or something like that, but it's ETP sized, which is crazy. But yeah, that's kind of the crux of it.
Hey everyone, I am Claxon. Probably people might know me by my work in Hard, the Henry Stickmin fan game. So this is my point of view of the project of this failed Henry Stickmin project, and as well as I want to say some commentary about it and more things in relation of the project. So here's my take. So my commentary about the project is that it looked promising for me and part of the team, I guess. About its development, well, there's a lot I can say about it, but I'm just gonna say some points. The development was somehow vague and slow because some parts of some parts of the script were just non-existent, and part of the team working on it, well, more or less working on it, were not online or even active. Part of them will just do nothing. Me as the me as the guy who did some backgrounds and part of a sketch and storyboards, I guess I can say it was a very little bit of the project done, but the past of the years, nothing else was done. Just a few drawings and sketches and stuff for the game, but nothing else was done apart from that. Until the day it was announced that the project was canceled by Kevin. Well, all can I say? What can I say about it is that it was expected because I worked for Kevin in the past for another gaming fan games, another Henry fan game like Storming the Submarine Remastered. Well, it ended up being canceled as well, and
Hi, I'm AJ the AJ. I was animator on the project. This is my video, and having everyone else's interviews, I didn't think I was above making one myself, so here's mine. I was super excited to be working on this project. Like we said before, this was an anniversary project. Banana Studio had been made in October 2021, and we hadn't really done much as a studio other than promote our own individual projects. So having this one to make was, it was fun. I was really intrigued about it. But Kevin didn't communicate properly. I had to decipher his scripts, which was made everything a lot confusing, like Klaxon said. And just I get that he had problems, but he didn't talk with us. And I think if you make promises, you should deliver on them. And if you can't, then communication is really important, not only to your audience, but to the team of people who are trying to help you. Um, the game itself, the plot, it was it was fine. I think as a starting project, it was just a fine enough plot. Especially since a lot of us hadn't worked together, and as a debut title, it was fine. The story was good enough. Am I open to future collaborative projects? Of course. It's 2026. I still think the Henry Stickmin community has a lot of fumes left. And if Kevin ever wants to talk with me again about opening up Reading the Lab or some new project, then I'd really be down to do that. Especially since I still have Over the Ocean and the sequel to that, which is going to need a lot of animation help. And, having Reading the Lab as an experience, it's helpful. But anywho, I think Kevin should have communicated properly, and Raiding the Lab was supposed to be something special. As stated before, the crew saw massive potential in this game, and it was a shame to see how fast it fell apart. Some of us blamed Kevin for not sticking it out for his own project, but sometimes you have to tell yourself that it's over. It's important to focus on what matters. To Kevin, he had higher priorities and he did away with this project. He most definitely could have handled it better, but the conversation with the crew about how they should proceed never came to pass, and neither did RTL. When working in a team, it's important not to get ahead of yourself by working on one thing at a time and making sure you communicate with the people who are working with you. Otherwise, some cool ideas like Raiding the Lab might get lost in translation. Trust your teammates and let them know if something's wrong or needs to change. I would like to thank Bioplant and Toxic Radioactive Locks for their own development videos. They're high inspirations for this, and without Toxic's video, I probably wouldn't have made this. I'm also glad to see that Attacking the Tower is being revived and that the crew's getting together. That's another example of good communication between team members, making sure a project isn't lost in translation.
Good evening. We have discovered that the Toppat clan is a research lab built on the Outlaws Island. The government is currently investigating the island. Some have been saying that the Toppats hold a rare yet expensive piece of meteor. Rumors have been going around that the meteor piece is over $500 million. Back to our other news. Local British man threatened.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much to Vixter and Klaxon for providing their voices. And yeah, goodbye.